You're only going to be confident with yourself if you are keeping the promises that you say. If you tell yourself one thing and you do something else, your confidence is instantly going to drop. That is just a fact. I don't care what you do, no morning routine, no any type of thing. You need to build constant wins to yourself. So when you're sitting there and you're saying, I'm not going to do this or I'm going to do this, and you break it to yourself or you achieve it, one or the other, you're boosting up confidence. It's as simple as that, guys. I don't believe all this crazy stuff on what you got to go do. You know my channel. I talk all about God. So my background comes from, I have been a Christian since I was 12 years old. So my joy comes from God because I know joy comes from knowing God. My confidence comes from God because although you're going to fail in this life, you're not going to be perfect. But knowing that God has forgiven you and he's giving you another chance day by day to actually do something with these talents that he's given you and keep the word to yourself and build your relationship with him, you get these chances every day that you wake up to make a simple win for yourself. And that is really the secret of confidence. It's not deep. If you just break promises to yourself, you're constantly going to be fighting with yourself. And you're going to be like, why do I not feel confident? Most of the time, I hear people, say like, oh, you're really good talking, with people and just general, like, I don't know. I feel like it's just general things. I know not everybody's built the same way, but just general things of, oh, you speak with confidence. And I'm like, listen, I know that I'm not perfect. So I live a life of forgiveness. So, God has forgiven me. It allows me to forgive myself and allows me to forgive others. It's obviously forgiveness is a process. You may really need to be diving in with God daily to really remove that hardened heart from you and remove that, that grudge that you hold from people, But on the daily, you're sitting there and you move with this sense of joy and forgiveness for yourself and forgiveness for people. For me, that gives me confidence on top of keeping my word to myself because I'll struggle with it. Like, don't get me wrong. I feel like when you have some like kind of innate talents already built in you, like communication or just people skills and stuff, in a sense, you could kind of turn it on. I feel like I could turn it on, even though I may have broken those promises to myself and my confidence doesn't feel as good. But that's where knowing God and where all that really comes into play. Because if you're just solo, every time you get a fluctuation of how you feel about yourself, whether you're not keeping the promise to yourself or you're keeping your promise to yourself, you're going high highs, low lows, and it's hard to constantly stay like that because you're volatile. You're constantly up and down. It's hard to move like that. But confidence, you could treat it as I don't know, it's almost like an attribute or, it's like willpower and confidence for me go together. If I say that I'm going to work out 3 days a week and I hit that marker, I'm feeling good about myself. If I say that, I'm not going to eat sugar or I'm not going to, screw off on eating bad food and stuff, and I do that, man, I'm instantly not feeling really good about myself because how could you really feel great about yourself when you don't keep your promises? You're basically lying to yourself. No one likes a liar. I don't want anybody to lie to me, but we lie to ourselves. So it's that keeping that accountability to yourself, being your own accountability partner is going to be absolutely pivotal for your growth in confidence. So, whether you're trying to get a new job or trying to get better at a new skill, set little incremental markers that are going to be, brick by brick, help you build up to that point. Don't set yourself to the moon, I'm going to diet for 100 days. Why don't you just focus on eating clean today or for an hour or for your next meal, eat clean. And you build up those little steps before you know it, you could actually say and set a 30-day goal. That's why a lot of times in January when people set these, big goals about what they're going to do, and I've been guilty of this, you set this big goal for yourself and it just, whether it doesn't work out or whatnot, you set a 30-day goal and maybe day 4 you screw off on it. It makes people quit. You're quitting almost before you start because you're just destined to fail when you're setting such a big goal when you haven't built the simple repetition of discipline. Focus on, like, I think the great example is when you're trying to eat better in your life, focus on the next meal. You're always, if you're blessed and you got money, you're going to have a next meal, right? So focus on what that next meal is going to be. And then before you know it, you could start applying this same principle of just what you're eating to other things, education, or a new profession, or, a new skill, anything like that. You could start applying those little things, because a lot of times I hear some people say, I just don't know where to start. I don't know where I'm going to start. Well, if you don't know where you're going to start, that the answer is basically in the question. You need to start. Now, you're not going to like everything you do, everything you try. You can't look at it as, what if I don't like this and I start doing it? You'll figure that out as you start going about it. You'll realize. And if I definitely advise you to have a very good relationship with God in the midst of this, because you could talk to him and you guys are planning this together. God has a unique purpose on your life. So it's not just so easy to just pick and choose something. You potentially can pick something wrong and waste a big chunk of your time, but I feel like when you're locked in with God, you get spiritually guided in the direction that he wants you to move if you are submitting to his movement, submitting to his power and presence over your life. You're like, you know what? I know usually the stuff I really, really want greedily is not going to be good for me, And that's why that eating example is so good, because like instant gratification, probably not a good idea. Something that's going to take longer for you to get through building those, blocks of repetition in your life, those blocks of discipline, are definitely going to be longer lasting goals. I wanted to make this video because I didn't want people to think that confidence is something that's hard to achieve. It's just not. People say like, they're so confident in themselves. They're not really confident in their self, so to say. They're confident in their routine of some way. They're confident in the routine that they've built for themselves. They've said one thing to themselves and they did it. And then before you know it, they got to a point where, they were actually doing and living that dream that they had built. Because when you first start something, it's a dream, put together with, gum and toothpicks for a second, until you start reinforcing that with those days and those incremental wins, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. And before you know it, you got a still reinforced dream, fully functional and living. And you don't have to say like, man, I don't even know how I got here. I woke up one day and I was here. No, man. We ain't crypto millionaires overnight. One night I bought this stock and the next minute it just shot up to the moon. Yeah, okay, that's a good choice. Great on you. 90% of the time people lose money like that. But if you built the discipline, if you were a trader and you built the discipline of understanding what you're doing, it's no guessing, and it's no wonder why you're where you're at. You don't have to think and say, I don't even know how I got here. No, you know exactly how you got here, because you had a disciplined format and plan and schedule for how you were going to achieve this or that, and you did it. So little different video, because I know I'm usually nailing the Bible down everyone's head. I just think it's so incremental to have a relationship with God, and for one, study his word, know his character, know who he is, and know the promises and know the authority that you're able to operate in. That's one thing. God gave us authority over things, but if you don't understand what you have authority over, it makes no sense. It's like a police officer, not knowing that he could pull people over, not knowing he could arrest people, not knowing he could actually help, the world and stop bad people from doing harm to other people. He didn't know that, but he wore a badge. What's the point of the badge? You might as well not be a police officer if you have the power of the law on your side, but you don't know how to exercise it. So be the proper enforcer in your life. Get right with God, get your relationship with God, and I'm telling you, your life is going to be better. Talk about confidence. You're going to have confidence if you prioritize and put God first. You have put God first, keep the promise to yourself, and you go be all right, for sure. So if you like this video, definitely like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, be in here, because I'm dropping weekly. I'm dropping videos like this. I'm dropping short films like this. And I hope you guys enjoy it, because I like to put these concepts together in in a short film, and I'm really, these short films are parts of my life. You're seeing things that I'm dealing with and battling with, and how I'm relying on God and relying on the talents He's given me to take action on them to pursue and make my life what His calling is for my life, to be doing the will of God. I feel like that's what a lot of us want. If we know God, we want to know the will for our life. We want to know our purpose. Well, you got to lock in with Him, understand the talents that He's given you, start taking action more and more day by day, build those talents to a success, and then it's always constantly relying on Him and knowing where He's going to take you, because He'll take you farther than you can ever imagine if you were to try to only rely on yourself to do it. That's a fact. That's a fact. And before you know it, you go be real confident because you're keeping the promise to yourself. You're locked in with God daily. So if you like this video, I'm so glad that it helped you. That's the whole point. That's why I do it. I want to place the vision that God places on my heart. I want to tell that through cinematic stories and inspirational, motivational videos like this to help you guys out. All right? So I'll catch you in the next one. I don't know what we go talk about just yet, but it's going to be another banger. Probably go do it outside. We're in the studio today. We're in the studio. We'll go do it outside. Change up the view. All right, guys. Peace.